The Chainsaw Man anime was a financial success, but the anime industry is constantly changing, and MAPPA's gonna want to adapt or else it's gonna lose the future of its business. But you already knew that, so what's up? Mentions Lycoris Recoil, salivating at the opportunity, large female demographic, token black kid, oh, sign me up. So in a recent interview, the CEO of MAPPA, Manabu Otsuka, went on to talk about the anime industry, MAPPA, and the elephant in the room, Chainsaw Man. So if you're not aware, Chainsaw Man sold a total of 1,735 Blu-rays and DVDs combined in its week 1, volume 1 sales. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's a flop. Alright, so I'm going to be going over this interview. I saw a lot of people talk about this on Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, etc. But a lot of people missed out on some things, so I'm going to go over it with the best of my ability. But I'm mostly going to be relying on deep L machine translations. So I'm going to put a link in the description. Let me know what you think, especially if you're Nihongo Jozu. And don't just blindly follow me, because then you're going to end up like those Chainsaw Man fans with the website traffic analysis. Alright. Also, it's been like 1 year since I've shown my face on this channel, so hey. Alright, so when it comes to the term flop, it's not as simple as black and white, profitable or not profitable. You see, let's say you were working at a deadbeat job, paying you $25 an hour or something, and you hated it. But then I give you a raise, $250 an hour. And you're gonna be like, sign me up, sign me up. But guess what? What if I said you could only work there for the rest of your life and you can't do anything else? You see, time is money and there's an opportunity cost to everything. Now, when it comes to this show, you can think about how you want. The MAPPA CEO himself said he was unsatisfied because it did not reach the level of impact as Jujutsu Kaisen. Unsatisfied. So in a way, he also thinks it's a flop. We do not want to do everything 100% funded in the future. So what does he mean by this? He's talking about the production committee, which they did away with. So I'll give you a basic explanation. Imagine there's like 5 companies working on an anime. Now, if each one gets an equal split, that's 20% each. So there's pros and cons of this production committee when they're all working together. The pros is that in general, the anime industry, and I feel like most Japanese companies in general, are risk averse, which means they don't want to take as many risks as other companies may. So if the anime tanks and they have 5 of them and they get an equal split, then you only lose 20% each. Now, the con is if the anime pops off, you get less gains. They said that it was a learning experience, but you know, I say that every time I fail, you know what I'm saying? But for real though, it was a learning experience because they learned the ins and the outs of practically operating as a production committee themselves, which means handling the marketing, the licensing, the product planning. Just, it's honestly a lot of added logistics that they had to do more work with, that it wasn't worth it in the end because it did not translate to the financial benefits. Otherwise, they'd be saying something else and they'd be doing it the next time. But also, it's still pretty beneficial because they learned a lot and they might be able to use this for negotiating or something in the future. Okay, so how did they achieve 100% funding by themselves? Money doesn't grow on trees, you know what I'm saying? Well, from what I saw, or they combined their earnings from the past anime they worked on, so Attack on Titan Season 4, aka the final season, Yuri on Ice, and then, I don't know, I'm just making that up. But basically, once they met their threshold, they were able to put it into their own opportunity, which they saw in Chainsaw Man, which was probably the opportunity of the decade. Now, if they just went like this and then this, that'd be financially irresponsible. I'm sure they had some rainy day fund, but for real though, a company can say one thing and then the next day just go bankrupt. Happens all the time, and by all the time, I mean like this year. Unfortunately for MAPPA, the 100% investment did not work out because they're not doing it anymore in the future. But that's not to say that they weren't financially successful. But here's the thing. It's the CEO's job to put the company in the best light possible. By financially successful, yes. But what if they were in the red up until this moment and then now they can say they're financially successful? You see, there's no incentive for him to tell you any bad news. He can just wait for the commissions to come and whatnot until they finally break even. And then now announce, we're complete financially successful. Most likely this didn't happen because they probably profit off day one, all the overseas distribution. But just something to think about because they literally have no incentive to tell you otherwise. Otsuka was unsatisfied because he saw the high level impact that Jujutsu Kaisen had. Chainsaw Man did not reach that level. But you know what had a high impact? Lycoris Recoil. He actually specifically mentions Lycoris Recoil because Lycoris Recoil, it's an original work by A1 Pictures, you see? And you can control more profit avenues by doing so. You can cut out the middleman. Like, you don't have to worry about the manga, the light novel, the game, the whatever. It's your own work. So you're controlling more of the merchandise, the more of the whatever. This might be one way that MAPPA is able to make more money. So this is something they're going to look into. But the thing is, it's funny. He says they need to challenge themselves. The reason they need to challenge themselves is because they have a trend where I'm calling it the never lose strategy. They pretty much adapt Attack on Titan, Jigoku Raku, Hell's Paradise, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen. Did I say that twice? People are saying they might even adapt One Punch Man. Like, oh yeah, Attack on Titan. Wait, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But basically, they're adapting all these big hits that already have a target audience. So it pretty much cannot fail. But here's the thing. History, like, it's not going to keep playing to your side. Eventually, something's going to happen and you're going to need to innovate. So Otsuka is thinking that they're going to start needing original IP one day. So they need to challenge themselves. Because he actually says one thing. The bad thing about the anime industry might be overseas distribution, which I'll actually talk about later. He does, though, talk about Lycoris Recoil, but then he does say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Essentially saying that the risk mitigation offered by adapting these really famous properties just outweighs any benefits of risking adapting a lesser known work. But here's the thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I personally think it's going to break easily. Look, there's only a limited number of these hot properties out there. Like, what? They're all looking at Dandadan. There's probably something called like hyperinflation, and I have no idea what else, but they're all like salivating at the opportunity. All these studios, they're like, they want a piece of that pie. Eventually, it's gonna run out. There's not enough mangakas making these things, all right? So if it was me and I had an anime studio and I knew Crunchyroll and Netflix and Hulu or whatever was going to pay me this amount of money, I will spend as much money as possible, as long as it's less than that, to acquire the rights to adapt that. Literally by any means necessary. I'll be like, hey, yo, your boss, give him a little bit of this. And so the rest, I'll just give that to the artists and the animators. I'm spending the most of my money on that because that's where the value actually is. You see where this is going to go wrong? I'm putting more of the effort into getting the anime than making the anime. All right, so quick off topic. I was actually looking at the title of this article, and the title is MAPPA, the production company behind Jujutsu Kaisen. So if you ever had any doubts, it does not saying Chainsaw Man. It's not saying Attack on Titan. If you had doubts about what MAPPA is known for, or maybe what their favorite child is, it's Jujutsu Kaisen. Here's the thing though. They still look at Blu-ray and DVD sales. He actually expected more because for Chainsaw Man, quote, we will explore how to approach the target audience who will pay for it. So they're clearly looking into ways to get more DVD and Blu-ray sales. Despite them not actually being important in the overall profit picture, money is money, and it's not just even about money. It's a bad look on the company. Merchandise is kind of like anime figures. It's like a collectible. If no one's collecting your collectibles, then you're pretty much losing your status. Or like no one cares enough to buy your collectibles. They just streaming it and they're good. Season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, every new season of an anime, the hype just goes down more and more. Unless you're something like Attack on Titan, where it's something crazy and then just like back up again. But most cases, you're just going to fail to sell as many DVDs and Blu-rays season after season. And that's even year after year, the sales are also decreasing. But in general, season after season, the sales are also decreasing. He does say that he's trying to approach the target audience that will buy it. Now, Chainsaw Man, that might be a little more difficult because now they have to deal with season 2. But one thing I'm thinking about is, so I actually had to Google this because it took me a while to find this. In season 2, there's a character called Yoshida. Not really spoilers. I'm just going to show what he looks like. All right. He's an attractive male character. There's this effect, the Odagiri Effect, which basically means that having these characters can attract a large female demographic, which in turn could potentially give you higher profits. Just think about it. They got the Gojo, Bungo Stray Dogs. That's not MAPPA, but you get my point. What does MAPPA have? They got Yuri on Ice. Now, I don't know anything about Yuri on Ice. I know there's a guy called Yuri, and I know there's probably a guy called Victor, and I know they probably ice skate together. That's about all I know. But that is probably the audience that they are targeting if they want to target for Blu-ray and DVD sales. And I don't know, maybe season 2, they're going to highlight Yoshida a lot more than he appeared in the manga, because let's be real, he appeared for like five panels tops in the manga or something in that part. All right, so one thing I gotta give props on for Manabu Otsuka is he says that the problems of the anime industry are also the anime studio's fault too, like MAPPA. You see, MAPPA was kind of poised to have like the greatest anime production schedule ever or something like that. They like had these new training and these new offices and whatnot, and had like a nice salary apparently. You know, despite all this stuff, the Chainsaw Man schedule fell apart. Animator Kiri Liu said that her work on Chainsaw Man's Ghost Devil took about 1 week. At the same time, she had bronchitis and potentially COVID. And then she was actually offered another cut on Chainsaw Man, but she only had 2 days to finish it. So she, of course, fortunately declined the offer. Unfortunately, other animators can't really do the same thing. You see, Japanese culture, I feel like they have like a yes culture. If MAPPA CEO tells you to suck his D, you don't say yes or no. You're gonna say where and when. Okay? But speaking of Kiri Liu, we gotta move on to the next point. So Manabu Otsuka also talked about how hard it was to attract and retain the talent, because training animators, you know, and all that stuff, the workforce, it's still a big problem. And like he said, the anime studio themselves is part of this problem. What it seemed like before the anime, everyone was like, oh, everyone wants to work on Chainsaw Man. Well, that's because you're seeing a lot of this activity on Twitter, and there's all these webgen animators, like Kiri Liu that I just mentioned, with hundreds of thousands of followers. Now, that might make it seem like everyone and their mom wants to work on Chainsaw Man, but realistically, not all of the staff are these popular key animators and whatnot. In fact, most of them are just regular anime industry employees, normal people that worked and didn't even get their name on the credits, probably, like, you know, just some guy at an in-between animation studio or something like that, an in-betweener. All right, and I want to go over the last thing, which was the biggest risk to anime, which he actually says is overseas distribution, which I also agree with. Manabu Otsuka states that overseas distribution could pose a big con because it's just a trend right now. And just like pachinko slots, which is like the gambling things, now those places are like, apparently they're like ghost towns. Although I did go to Tokyo and like all these other places in Japan, and they still seem pretty booming. But I assume back in the day they were crazy. They were like Las Vegas's everywhere. But now they're not as profitable anymore. Back in the day, Netflix, they would order so many shows. Like, I'm going to put like an article here, but basically there were reports of like people, like producers and whatnot, literally just ordering shows over the phone and being like, yo, you got a show for me? And then he's like, yeah, I do. And then they'll be like, well, tell me what it's about. Well, the thing is, I don't even have a proof of concept. Well, can you tell me about what characters there are? Well, you know, there's gonna be this one guy, he's like a white dude, and then we're gonna have this one guy, the token black kid. Oh, sign me up. And then like they're pretty much just gonna like agree right there on the spot without even seeing a trailer or anything. What I think is the Western streaming industry and all that stuff, that's just a sign to tell for what's gonna happen for anime. Because like the thing is, streaming, it can only get so much bigger. Nowadays, Netflix is dialing back on the number of shows that it buys. Like, it's not just going like, yup, I'll buy that, I'll buy it, yup, I'll buy it. They have to actually filter things out now and be really selective. Eventually, when things start getting selective, the money from the West is not going to come in so easily from anime anymore. Because how streaming works is you're paying your subscription, paying a monthly fee that's recurring, and it's being split out amongst all these shows in Netflix's catalog. Yes, they might get more of a cut if you watch more, but realistically speaking, you're not really adding any more money in no matter what you do. You're only paying your subscription fee every month. The most sustainable way, in my opinion, is, like I said, they want to move away from these production committees, these centralized parties, and kind of do things more on themselves, decentralize it. And some anime have literally like democratized the process, like straight up, like Jashin-chan Dropkick, where they crowdfunded the funding of the anime. Now, this is something that is actually probably easily done for Chainsaw Man. So if you really want a season 2 and they don't make one, I'm sure it can be easily crowdfundable if they want to. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Peace.